I got to get myself ready. Because, keeping it real, keeping it real. What's the thing he says? What's the line he says? It is what it is. The same thing, same thing. What's the line from His Highness? Got to keep the real thing the real thing. It's not relevant to the conversation. Why I didn't go to the White House. Don't be and all that. I don't know. And I just now I don't want to know what it is. Wait, what? I was saying to keep the real thing the real thing. How you doing? Real thing the real thing. Hey, John McMahon. There you go, Stevie. There you go. Hey, real thing the real thing. How you doing? Real thing the real thing. See, even Stevie's pissed off. Go get him, Steve. Son of a. How you doing there? That's my guard dog. He's this big, but this wide. How you doing? That's my boy. I love you, baby. All right. Without further ado, keeping the main thing the main thing. We bring in the co-host, the Birds 365, our dear friend, Big Z, Zander Krause. How you doing, brother?
What's up, Big Sills? How you living, brother?
I'm living good. I'm keeping the thing the real thing.
I know you are, man. You're doing a good job of keeping that real thing the real thing. Listen, good to hear the players speak today. All right. Yeah. I miss football, Sileo. I'm watching these guys come out. I'm like, wait a second. There's AJ, there's Mailata, Jalen, Nick. I'm like, man, I miss football. But yeah, good to be able to get him at least back out there.
I love Jordan Mailata.
Yeah, he's awesome, man. Mailata's really, really dope. Really real,
Don't you think he's the leader of that team?
I think he's got a leadership role. I mean, I think he's absolutely got a leadership role for sure. I mean, he's one of the vocal guys. I think he's grown into that more. Remember how he started, Tough to lead when you can't strap up a helmet, right? But when you're the best tackle in football,
yeah, that'd probably be difficult.
Right. Yeah. Now he's a good dude though. I'm a Jordan Mailata fan. He just comes off as genuine and relatable. Like he's just another regular dude who got really good at football. It's like one of us. So yeah, I like Mailata. I
even liked AJ. I thought AJ
took it out of my man. AJ was great today.
Yeah.
AJ was great today. AJ was great he did a podcast not too long ago. He was great on there. He was good in the press conference today. I thought his answers to everything were good. Yeah. I like AJ Brown, man. I think AJ Brown is a cool dude. Like I would like AJ Brown outside of the game of football. If I just met him on the street or something, I think I'd like him. He seems like a genuine good dude.
I think I would too. I think you know what? There's a lot of Michael Irvin in him. And you see it, but he's not quite, I mean, he's funny, and he's calculated and smart. I tell you this, he's a smart guy. He knows where he is. He knows the room. He knows the kind of answers. He said something really cool. He goes, because somebody asked him, he goes, hey, you still want to go to the Olympics? He goes, that's during training camp. I mean, he goes, that means all you guys would be giving me shit if I show up at the Olympics while I'm not in training camp. So that ain't happening.
Wait a second. I kind of had a similar takeaway from Jalen. I love Jalen, but it does at times you're just like, all right, can you speak a little more normal to me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's not like that. I'm not gonna try and change who he is. But then I saw some clips on Twitter, Sills, of Joe Burrow. Oh my God. I talk about prima donna.
Oh,
Joe Burrow's crunk. I got to go fourth year, a primetime game in Baltimore. We should have an international game. I'm like, Joe, shut up. You won 8 games last year, Joe. Shut up. Don't care how many passing yards you had. So,
And you're in Cincinnati. Hey, and you're in Cincinnati. Relax. Nobody's looking to see the Bengals play.
I thought that immediately. I'm like, hey, man, you don't have an international game because if you don't win every year, you're never going to be relevant.
Bro, you're in Cincinnati, Ohio. Now, anybody's really dying to buy tickets to see Bengal games.
Yeah, really.
I don't care who they have on that.
Now, he's a good player, though. He's a good player, but still, he was whining a little bit today.
How about this? Who do you believe is going to be right? Big Sills at 16-5 or John McMullen.
Oh, you came up. You came up from 15.
I did. I think they got to pay him more than 15. So I'm going to go 16-5 because I think they got to pay him more than Tomlin too. So 16-5, and to put an asterisk on it, John did say, I don't believe they're paying him, but they should. So I want to put that in context there. 21 million. Where do you think he's going to land?
Option C, and that's me, and it's 19 million.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Second highest paid coach.
Yep.
No way.
They're going to say, listen, Andy's been around too much. He's a Hall of Fame coach. He's earned the 20. I'll give you a high number. I'll give you more than Sean Payton, but we're not going to break Andy. And I think that's where the other stuff comes in if they don't want to make the coaching salaries too crazy. So you put him right at 19. You know, you're above Sean Payton. You're above Mike Tomlin. You're above all these other dudes that you're, by the way, better than, more successful than, better than him, and more accolades on your resume in just 4 years. And you're in a good spot. I think that's what Nick is getting. I don't think you're right, and I don't think John's right either at 21 million. So 19.
This is an agita.
Take it to the bank.
This is an agita. This is agita right here at its finest here.
No, it's not. Here. Agita is you coming up $1.5 million after I took you to the cleaners yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
On Winnie.
Everybody is now. Yeah, okay. Here.
Dude, Winniani, even you can't escape Winniani.
Hold on.
Such a winner.
So let me ask you something. So when Jeffrey Lurie asked for a direction of a team or the team, or he's looking for advice on something, who do you think he values the opinion of more, Howie or Nick?
Jeffrey Lurie?
Yeah.
Well, it depends. Is he talking football or is he talking business?
Well, if he's talking business, I'm not talking to Nick or Howie.
Me neither. If you're talking personnel, you're talking to Howie. If you're talking football, you're talking to Nick Sirianni.
Well, how is
second highest paid coach in the league?
How is he talking to Nick Sirianni when he almost fired him last year?
It's a good question. It's a good question. How fast things change.
Do you think Howie's ever been? Wait, Howie was fired. Demoted. Fired is different. I do like to think that the easier move in that situation would have been to fire Howie. So Jeffrey did want to keep him around for something. You know, that thing just looks like a brilliant move now, doesn't it? Just not letting. Well, I'm not giving him credit because I think he lucked into it by how bad Chip Kelly was and how much it fractured his view on giving up control, that it allowed him to, work Howie back into the mix. And by the way, this is another thing that people get wrong about the tenure. A lot of the mistakes that Howie Roseman made between 16 and 20, which were quite a bit of them. You remember Jalen Reagor, obviously the over and over missed draft picks that we had. A lot of those were Doug. Okay. Jalen Reagor was a Doug Peterson pick. Doug Peterson and the coaching staff said they wanted Jalen Reagor. Howie gave him that. And then Howie, over and over again, still to this day, has fallen on the sword for that. Howie takes the flack for that. Is Jalen Hurts a Joe Douglas sign? Was Joe in charge of personnel in 20? That's potential. Was Joe Douglas head of personnel in 2020? Nah, he became the Jets GM in 2019. So that's probably the year before Hurts was drafted. So that's how he's got. Okay. So the last year was 19. That's when Joe was, or 18, right? 18 was the last year. Right. I think that's a great hire, dude. Yeah, I like it. I mean, I think it's a good thing. I do wonder, is there at all a power struggle there? I don't think so, because, Joe doesn't have any sort of power in that room anymore. But I do wonder if you get some guys, that differ on team building. But overall, I think it's a great thing. I mean, if you have different people who are all well-rounded and they all put in their opinion into a pot, I think you're going to improve your chances at getting to the right decision if you have valuable opinions, pushing the right ones to the top. So you don't create an echo chamber. I think it's a good hire too. Guys, do me a favor. Supers will read at the end. And also, don't forget, please hit the like button here.
I actually don't think Joe Douglas did too bad in New York. Now, he couldn't get the quarterback right, so that'll kill any GM's
that could
chance.
be the owner. That could be the owner.
Exactly. That's my next point is, like, look at the owner. I mean, he did draft some really good players. All right, he did draft. And, you know, the other thing that he did was he said, I'm not going to pay Bryce.
Hey.
I'll undrafted free agent him, but I will not be paying him. He might be joking with Howie about that, man. You could have called me. I would have told you not to pay that dude.
Right. No doubt, man. But then Howie could turn around and go, hey, thanks for the 3rd round pick on Reddick.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Hey, you know what? I hear you, and not just you, Zander, but I hear a lot of people going, hey, I wonder if anybody's a little bit upset if Howie Roseman calls your franchise and wants to talk about a player that's on your 53-man roster. Zander, I would pick that phone call up in a second nowadays because I want to know who you're identifying. Because let me finish this point here. Here's a guy that looked at A.J. Brown and went like this, 63 catches. I mean, dude, they were okay pedestrian numbers in Tennessee. He comes to Philadelphia. This guy turns out to be one of the top 3 guys. Here, you do this again. You call up and you have a guy on your roster for 4 years, and Zach Bond. Hey, I want this guy Bond. You get this guy Bond, turns out to be first-team All-Pro. Now we're starting to get into the room of that can't be a coincidence. Then you turn around and you make a trade for Darius Slay, who couldn't be a man cover corner to save his life. Well, that's not what we're going to bring him here for. We're going to put him in a zone. Turns out to be All-Pro every year he's here. You know, you may miss on Bryce Huff. What I'm saying is that their vision, look at what they did with Becton. He sucked in New York. He was a complete disaster. Put him in right guard. He's a Pro Bowler. I don't know about you, man, but I mean, shit. That can't just be coincidence. That's got to be insight. And that's got to have like the Jahad Campbell draft. They see what they want that player to be. Now, whether or not that player fulfills the destiny of what they see and how they see him, that's up to the kid. But what they see is this. It's a pretty good thinking forward mentality that they have on when they're looking at a respected player. And I think that's one of the reasons that they have patience with players is because they know there's going to be a transition on what they see. Remember something, Zach Bond was a special teams guy. He wasn't a starting everyday linebacker. And this guy evolved into being the first-team All-Pro guy. That can't be coincidence, dude.
No, it's not.
Look at Barkley. Barkley was a failure in New York. Well, because the Giants were a failure. He comes
now,
here.
how much do you put of that on player evaluation versus player development? Because, you know, you don't draft a good player. Obviously, you know that, you know. you got to develop a player. You got to put him in a position to succeed. So they have a good developmental program here in Philly where most players are developing very well. But I do think you're right where, you know, same thing with Jalen Hurts, by the way. Right. I mean, you drafted that guy out of college. Nobody was predicting he was going to be a starting quarterback. People thought taking him 54 overall, wherever it was, 56 overall was an egregious reach. You know, now Jalen Hurts might not be in somebody's top 5 quarterbacks, and that's all fine and dandy. But I guarantee you, if he got redrafted, he wouldn't fall in the 50s. No. All right. That's a top 5 draft pick in that draft, probably top 10 pick. So they've done a very good job at that. There's no doubt. Listen, they do have a big staff, man. And you know, I've heard things of sometimes people who are on that staff get a little upset because they feel as though Howie gets so much credit. Now, listen, that's life. Those people are going to have to deal with it because Howie's the head of the snake. But they have a great staff, man, a great staff. They have a deep staff. They have one of the biggest front offices in the NFL in terms of just sheer number of people populated in that front office. So they do a really good job. And I think it's kind of goes to the point I made earlier about you get enough good opinions in the room, you know, when you put them all in a pot, the best ones are gonna come to the top. You know, the best ones are gonna float. So I think that's what they're doing, and so far it works for the most part. It works very well, and their hit rate is really good in the last couple of years.
That's why I'm going to eat a Bryce Huff move when there's 4 other ones that were grand slams. I mean, look, Bryce Huff may have been a failure. Tell you, Mekhi Becton, Barkley, and Bond weren't failures.
Yeah.
You don't win a Super Bowl without those 3.
No, you're
and you
right.
won the Super Bowl in light of Huff.
And Sills, can you live with that, right? Like,
Yes,
every year your GM is
absolutely.
you're not shooting 100% from the field.
Right,
The greatest teams in the history of NFL don't hit like that. So you're right. I mean, look, the Bryce Huff one hurts because I think you're out an edge right now. We're out 2 edge rushers. So if that guy did pan out, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in right now. So I think that one keeps coming up. But you don't hear us complaining about linebacker because Bond worked. You don't hear us complaining about any of the other positions because they've all worked out. So
would you agree? Would you agree if Huff had worked out, Jahad Campbell's not drafted?
I don't know because do we win the Super Bowl still?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then I think Campbell would still be drafted because if all things were the same in the draft and he fell,
it would be Huff and Nolan Smith. Where's he playing?
Well, then they would use him in that Joker role. It'd probably be the end for Nakobe Dean. They'd start him at more off ball with that type of role, and Huff would still probably, whether he panned out or not, might have been gone after this upcoming season anyway. That was a 3-year deal, but they're all structured to be out after 2 years.
So you're saying then that they would have drafted, the mentality would have been to replace Dean with him?
I think the mentality would have been to get that player. All right. I think the mentality this year was a lot less about positions, and they had certain guys that they thought were first-round picks. And the minute Jahad Campbell started to fall, they identified that's the last guy that we would make a move up for. If we can't make a move up for him, I don't know if they would have made a move up at all, or maybe they would have even dropped back a little bit. So again, I'm assuming, but I think with how aggressive they were, you heard the rumblings that they wanted to move up to 22 or 23 for the player. They clearly liked the player, man. They thought he was a first-round grade, and we'll see if they're right. I happen to think they will be, but I'm just a little concerned. Not concerned, but that's not the right word. But I'm curious to see how the injuries pan out because listen, I'm a fan. You draft a guy first overall, or first pick, your first overall pick in the draft at 31, and you're like, geez, 2 knees, 2 shoulders. You're like, all right, let's see how this guy can pan out in the NFL. It's a different ball game, but I think Jahad Campbell's going to be great.
Do you agree with this comment? One thing His Highness Hertz said today that I loved. He was
Listen,
right.
I could rip him for it, but still, as I told you yesterday, I was parading on Broad Street a couple months ago because of him. So I'm gonna let him be your highness for an off season. All right.
Kiss the ring. There you go. Hey, I'll tell you one thing I did like. He said this: every year we've been here has been different.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it's going to look like as of right now. Everything evolves, and I've got to be willing to evolve. I think he's the only quarterback in the National Football League that has that mentality. You're not going to tell Josh. Now, when Josh Allen did evolve a little, they fired Ken Dorsey. They told him not to throw the ball. 18 months later, it's the season's MVP.
Right.
I mean, anytime that you're asking one of those elite guys, like Joe Burrow or any of these other guys, to change something, I mean, that's a big ask. Hurts is more... He's like the head coach in a way. He's adjustable.
Well, the thing I really like about him is
Don't you think that's a huge asset to have him like that?
Well, it works with the kind of head coach he has right now, too, right? With Nick Sirianni. Remember how we used to say, like, normally the head coach is the mature one or the stoic one, and the quarterback's the one who has some emotions. Jalen's kind of that steady ship, more so. And Nick has been the guy who has more of the emotional highs and lows, which, you can criticize it all you want, but at the end of the day, it's worked pretty well here for these two. So they've seemed to have found the formula. I do agree 100% on Jalen Hurts. He definitely has it's just a different, I don't want to use the word aura because that word is so overused, but it's kind of a different feeling in the locker room with a guy like him in that regard. I think you're right on it for sure. I do think there could be some downsides to that if you were with a different coach, right? Like, I don't know how he would have worked with a different type of coach, but him and Nick are really a good match so far here in Philly, and that's worked out well because I do think Nick is willing to take a back seat, Sills, to anybody, whether that's Howie, whether it's Jalen, whether it's whoever it is. He really is a player's coach or a people's coach, and kind of takes the blame for a lot.
I'm going to disagree with you here a little bit. You think Lincoln Riley and Nick Saban and Nick Sirianni are 3 different type of style of coaches?
I'd say they're way different styles, yeah. So Jalen worked with all of them, but different phases of his career. When you're a freshman in Alabama, all right, you come in with a different mindset than when you're an MVP Super Bowl champion. All right, you're a made man, right? You're a made. Jalen Hurts is a made man.
I'm looking at a guy who won all the national titles. I'm like, whatever you need, coach.
Yeah, no, but to your point, it would push back on the the idea that he wouldn't be able to work with everybody. Maybe this is just because he has Nick. This is who he's grown into because of that, right? If he had a different head coach, maybe the progression would have been a little bit different with him. But no, it's a good point by you. Yeah, I do think though it's a much different time in his career. But he's always been a sponge. He's always been a teachable guy. He's always said, even in one of his more recent interviews, like he wants to be coached. He wants to be told what he's doing wrong, even if he doesn't maybe doesn't subscribe to it or doesn't feel like it's something he needs to work on. I think he takes the hard coaching well. At least that's what he says he does. So, and that's proven by Nick Saban, right?
Oh, absolutely. But I think the way that he talked today, Zander, when he said that every year I've been the starter here, it's been different. Well, I started thinking, what's been different in his life and his career? Every coach he's ever had. I mean, Lincoln Riley doesn't coach anything like Nick Sirianni or anything like Saban. Saban is nothing like Sirianni, but in a way they're emotional. There's emotional, and I don't think Nick is that hard pressing as Nick Saban is. I think Nick Sirianni's more.
Yeah, but I do think there's more similarities there, as you just alluded to. Than
there
people
is
think.
Similarities.
Yeah, Nick Saban was not.
Guys are emotional.
Nick Saban was not. All right, for those who follow Nick Saban's career, he was not an emotionally steady guy, in game, out of game, ever. I mean, he blew up in press conferences with the media.
53-14 lead. 53-14 lead. He's blowing up on players
and
on
he's throwing his headset down and everything like that. So, it's a different type of emotion with Nick versus or Saban versus Sirianni, but it's definitely still there. Maybe that's another good point by you. Maybe they are a little bit more similar than you would think. And Jalen's handled that well.
Absolutely. Here, I want to play. I want to ask you, and I'm going to do this with you here. I was going to go through it myself, but I want to do it with you. 10 Eagles you can't lose. 25 for you to be successful. Who would you put number one?
Number one for
I
top
said Barkley.
People aren't going to like my answer here, but I'm going to go with the quarterback, Sills. And this is more about the position, I believe, than anybody. And I know we are Philadelphia. We won our first Super Bowl with a backup quarterback. But I've said this has been a theme of recently my segments on here and on Birds 365. I don't just believe just because you have talent around somebody or you have a good roster that you can just plug anybody in. I believe that about Nick Sirianni, and I believe that about Jalen Hurts. If we don't have Jalen Hurts as our quarterback, we're not winning 55 games in the last couple of years. We're not winning the Super Bowl last year. There's just no way. Now, you can criticize and say, I want more passing yards, or I want to be better at this, or whatever the case may be. We're not going anywhere if we step out there with Kenny Pickett or Tanner McKay. I truly believe that. Well, in a very small sample size. Jalen Hurts has never missed more than 2 games at a time.
Okay. But you have won a Super Bowl without a starter.
Well, that was a different team with a different coach and a different build. But, I hear you.
I mean,
how often does that happen in NFL history? That's more the exception than the rule.
I've only seen that 2 times. Earl Morrall took over back in the 70s for Greasy. Oh, actually, Hostetler did it too with Sims. But again, like you said, that was like after game 10 with Hostetler. That was after the beginning of the year. So Morrall had been a former MVP himself. He took over in the 70s. And what did Nick have? What was it like? What are you guys like 11-2 when Foles took over? Was that right? Like 11-2, something like that.
Either 11-2 or even a little more. I think it was week 13 versus the Rams. It was week 13 versus the Rams. I think that he got.
To your point, that doesn't happen a lot. Okay.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't happen a lot. But no, I believe that. Like again, and I'm not here to argue about somebody's quarterback rankings or if Jalen Hurts is off this team, I don't think we have a chance in hell at going to a Super Bowl. And by the way, we've been to 2 in the last 3 years. I don't think we would have been to 2 in the last 3 years without that quarterback. So I'm going to take him as my number 1.
I got A.J. Brown number 2. I don't think there's any coincidence that this guy blocked for 2 of the greatest backs. And really, every time he's been on the field, has he not had and helped a Pro Bowl running back whether it's been Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift. Look at those two guys when they go somewhere else. Swift was down a year ago in Chicago. We'll see what Ben Johnson does with him this year. Again, I think they need a little bit more help there, but this guy's he's blocked for Henry and Barkley now. I mean, and plus he puts up enormous numbers. Bro, I don't think there's any coincidence to that on how important he is to that offense, man. Yeah. I mean, the running game, his presence alone. I got AJ.
And look, we did go to a Super Bowl with AJ Brown and not have Saquon Barkley. So, and I'm not trying to diminish what Saquon is, but we struggle without AJ Brown. I'm a little torn on going AJ Brown here. I agree with you. Going Lane Johnson. All right, Jalen Hurts is weak side and one of the best offensive linemen we've had in Philly, and who's been just an absolute beast in Jalen Hurts' tenure. Or one of the defensive guys in Jalen Carter and Zach Bond, because I firmly believe this. If you don't have the number one defense overall last year, I don't believe that team wins the Super Bowl.
Jalen said that today.
Jalen said how important a defense is.
He said defense wins titles.
I can sit here and name, all right, Jalen, Saquon, AJ, Lane, and Mailata. There's 5. But that would be neglecting the defense and acting like, okay, this offense is good enough. No team is good. Look at the Bengals. He threw for 5,000 yards last year and 60 freaking touchdowns. What did it get him? 8 wins. All right, You need a good defense. So with number 2, I'd probably go Jalen Carter. Because if you can't get any pressure on the defensive line, or our defense is built around what he does. So if he's not there, I don't think Bond can do what Bond does. I don't think the corners can be as good in coverage because they're going to, the quarterback's going to have more time with the ball. So I'm going to go Jalen Carter too. It's a tough one because there's a couple there on defense you could pick. Maybe one of the corners, maybe even Zach Bond, but I'm going Carter there at number 2. And then I'll give you my next ones coming up.
I'll go Jalen Hurts at number 3. And I do think you can't go too low. Quarterback has to be in the conversation because if you don't have a signal caller and he's like a jockey, the quarterback, okay? And you don't bet on the horse, you bet on the jockey because the jockey will take you to the finish line.
Right.
Okay? That's a John Morgan line. And you've got to have the jockey. And the way that he adapts the last 4 years, I think that's an important role that he has on that team because without him in that huddle, Barkley no way has $2,000. There's just no way he has $2,000. By the way, real quick, before I get your third one, I thought it was one of the greatest misses by Mailata. He goes, how many right guards has Lane Johnson played next to in his career?
Dude, I don't know. A lot.
And he's never had
now,
a drop
some stability. Why am I blank? Sayamalu was there for a couple years, at least a few years for him.
You've had 3. You had Becton, Cam, and Sayamalu the last 3 years. That's just the last 3 years.
Yeah, right. There's been a lot. There's been a lot for sure. There's been a lot.
Never dropped off in his abilities. Man, I mean, what did Mailata say? That Landon and him have 1,000 reps together on that left side. It's truly amazing on how great Lane Johnson has been. And I'll remember that, what he said. What do you got for number 3? 10 Eagles that you can't live without to have a successful 2025.
All right, I'm going to go 3 and 4 here because I view them as 3A and 3B. But for the sake of the exercise, I'm not going to do that. But for number 3, I'm going Saquon Barkley. All right, this team thrived offensively last year. By handing him the rock, he allowed the Eagles to dominate the time of the clock, the time of possession, all these different. He gave you almost all of your explosive plays, not all of them, but most of your explosive plays last year on offense. I think he had 7 runs for 60+ yards. If this team views the formula they used last year as the formula they want to pursue this year to try and get to the promised land again, you must have Saquon Barkley. So I'm going to go Saquon Barkley 3. And then what would be 3B, but I'll put him here at 4, is A.J. Brown because the team can't win without the guy, for crying out loud. Whether you run or you pass, it feels like we need A.J. Brown on the field. And the other thing I would put him at 4 for this year specifically is we are coming off a historic run season. So I'm expecting defenses to do their very best to replicate what Spagnuolo did. Now, that doesn't mean they're all going to be successful and they're going to stop Saquon Barkley. But I do believe there's going to be more instances this year where Jalen and AJ and Devontae, but for the sake of, saying AJ Brown, Jalen and AJ are going to have to get a bulk of the yards, get a bulk of the offense. And I think they're going to be ready to do that. And AJ Brown is certainly capable of doing that for his skill set. I think he's one of the best receivers in football. So I'm going to put him there at 4.
Okay, I'm going to ask your opinion, and I'm going to take what you say on this. Between Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson, Lane is the front side tackle, and Jordan is his flank, his blind side. What tackle do you think is more important in the ability for this team to win, Mailata or Lane? Because I think that's, for me, number 4.
Yeah.
Who would you take? Who could you
live
without?
Yeah.
And by the way, for the record, before you answer, Mailata was ranked the number 1 ranked left tackle by PFF last year in pro football.
See, this is a very hard exercise to do because if you could clump the O-line together, obviously you'd clump them together and you'd put them at 1 or 2. But we can't, and we have to pick out individuals. I'm leaning Lane. I'm leaning Lane because, this offensive line was good before Jordan Mailata got here, and it's been good, since he got here. Now, the left tackle is a more valuable position than the right tackle. But with Jalen Hurts, remember, Jalen Hurts is a roll to the right kind of guy, right? He runs a lot of plays over that way. So I'm going to go Lane Johnson here because he's the glue, in my opinion, that holds the thing together. Listen, Sills, ready? Say Malu left, offensive line stays good. Now I know there's other moving parts. Jason Kelsey hangs him up. Offensive line still good. Brandon Brooks moves on and Landon Dickerson comes into the fold, or whoever you had before Landon, but after Brooks. But, offensive line still good. The one remaining piece, the one domino who's never changed is Lane Johnson. Now, that doesn't mean he's more valuable than Mailata, but that's the reasoning I'm using for taking him over Mailata in this instance.
How about this, though? Would you not agree that Lane has the harder job because he's got the newer face every year?
Yeah, well, and I think he's more equipped to handle that. But you're right. But overall, right, left tackle is a little bit of a harder position because it's quarterback's blind, obviously. So, yeah, I mean, I get that. But, yeah, Lane, I'm going to go Lane here, just maybe just because I love Lane. I don't know.
Okay, so I'm going to go number 5. I'm going to go Mailata. Who do you got at 5? You got Hurts, Barkley. No, excuse me.
Hurts, I got Hurts, Carter. Yeah.
Hurts, Carter, Barkley, AJ. Who do you have at 5?
Yeah, I mean, if I could put the O-line together, obviously, like I just said, they'd be way higher up. But because I'm going here off individuals, it's hard for me to pick Lane or Mailata, and I might go Zach Bond here because I want that defense to remain as a top contending defense. And if you don't have, Zach Bond in there, I don't think that defense can be that. So I might go Zach Bond 5 and then lift out the freaking offensive lineman after that.
Okay, here's 6 for me. It's Carter, and I'll tell you why. Over Bond. Bond's nowhere to be seen on the planet if Carter's not as dominant as he is up front.
Well, remember, I had Carter too.
Yeah, I got it.
Right. Yeah.
I got it. I don't think Bond's anybody if Carter is not as dominant. Because if he's getting blown up on the line of scrimmage, and that line of scrimmage is in the lap of the linebackers, you're 5 yards down the field. You have no impact whatsoever.
Right.
That defensive front 4, especially the interior D tackles, are not playing great football. Dean and Bond are getting run over. It's just it's math, and you're just getting run over. I think that guy was the centerpiece in the heart of your defense, and I got Carter at 6. I think Carter.
I like it.
I mean,
I like it. I like your list right now. Your list makes a lot of sense right now. Your top 6 so far. For 6 for me, this is where I might begin a run on offensive lineman. Give me Lane Johnson here at number 6 for me. if it was a perfect world and I could put the O-line together, these guys would be way up higher. But because it's individual, I have those other 5 before them. And I'm going to go Lane Johnson here, 6 Big Sills.
Here's what this may shock you. Name me a successful football team last year that did not have a dominant center. Baltimore has one. Kansas City has one. Detroit has one.
This is a good point. Who was Washington center last year?
I don't know, but he finished as an alternate.
It's not that Biadiz, is it? However you say
yeah,
that.
the kid I think the guy from the Cowboys. The Cowboys lost that guy and put that guy BB in there, and he stunk. Okay?
Cooper Beebe, but who's the guy that was playing the Commander center last year?
I forget. Buffalo has he's in Buffalo? Gee, look at that. The Buffalo Bills. Is he in Buffalo?
Yeah, last year it was Tyler Beatish or something, or Biadaz or something. I don't know how to pronounce that.
The guy from the Cowboys. Okay, that guy, that was a huge loss for them. So get this. Name me a football team that doesn't have a great center.
It's a good point by you.
If you don't have that guy in the middle, setting the protections with your quarterback, odd and even, understanding, I got to tell you, you tell me, is it me? Or did the run game look better with Cam Jurgens versus a year previous with Jason Kelsey, who's going to Canton?
Yeah, well, on the same breath of you explaining why you're going center, and I very much can see your logic, the last thing you said is why I'm not going to put Cam Jurgens here for me, because you went from one center to the next and still were dominant.
Oh, you're going – I see. So you go from Favre to Rodgers, hey, the quarterback.
Well, no, that's not the point, though. I mean, the point would be, if it was so irreplaceable. I don't know. Well, maybe it is a credit to – Jason Kelsey, but to Cam Jurgens, but nah. So you're taking Cam at 7.
I think you have to have a dominant center to be able to be a.
I like it. I like the logic you brought to the table, and you brought the proof that most good teams have a good center. I think you're right about that. It's interesting. All right, number 7 for me, I'm going Jordan Mailata. All right, so run on offensive lineman. I told you guys I went Lane Johnson 6. Number 7, I'm going Jordan Mailata. Let's be real. This is not the Philadelphia Eagles without that dominant offensive line. And that offensive line is not the Philadelphia Eagles O-line without those 2 tackles. So I got Lane 6, Mailata 7. And you know what? You could switch them around. You can go 6A, 6B, whatever you want to do. Give me those 2 guys there, though.
At number 8, this may shock you. I'm going Cooper DeJean.
He's in my top 10.
Dude. That guy was a freaking tone setting. When he got put into that defense, it was a complete facelift. It was like, dude, I know what Q did, but when he was in there, I'm watching teacups of Derrick Henry. I'm watching interceptions. I'm watching hits. I'm watching interceptions in the Super Bowl. I'm watching an energy, a youthful energy. I don't know.
I'm with you.
A tone setter. So I'm going Cooper DeJean at number 8.
I like that. I got no issues with Cooper DeJean at number 8. Not at all. Number 8 for me. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
All right. So I went offensive line. I could triple dip here and go into the Landon Dickerson, but which I think is what I'm going to do. I'm doing this on my head, everybody. So just give me. I went 1 Jalen Hurts, 2 Jalen Carter. 3
Barkley.
3 was Barkley. 4 was AJ. 5 was Vaughn. 5. Lane and Mailata 6 and 7.
Right.
So number 8 here, I'm a little torn between Dickerson, DeJean, and either Smitty or Goddard. Like I think only one of them can make this top 10, but you could make an argument Smitty wouldn't make it based on importance to the team, but he obviously does give you a different caliber. Give me Landon Dickerson here. I think, his violence, as the word he uses in the running game, that works with this team so well. We're a run-based team. Our offensive line are not just good at blocking. They're good at bullying people, and there's nobody better on that O-line, including the 2 tackles, better at bullying dudes with violence than Landon Dickerson. So I think what Landon does, Sills, is he sets the tempo on that offensive line. He might not be the best player on that offensive line, but I think he brings the mentality to that offensive line of, I'm going to run you the F over. I think that comes from Landon Dickerson. And if you don't have that, I don't think that offensive line is the same level of dominance. So I'm going Landon here.
At 9, I've got Zach Bond. I think what Bond brought last year, the ability to cover, blitz, sideline to sideline. Was it me? But every single time I saw a pile of Eagle defenders, his helmet and lid was in it. I don't ever remember a play last year where he wasn't involved in a play. How many big-time interceptions or defended passes or broken up passes or big hits on the line? Like the plays that he made where he stopped first downs. And I saw so many enormous open field You know what shocked me the most about him? His open field tackling skill set. I mean, to be able to tackle these elite athletes like that in open space and the way the game is played in space was remarkable.
And still, especially with not that much experience prior to
I don't get it. I can't believe
it. Was incredible.
I've never seen a guy parachute in out of nowhere. It looked like he'd been playing the position forever.
Yeah,
incredible. I got him at 9.
It's a good pick at 9. Number 9 here, I'm going to go Cooper DeJean. All right, so one spot behind where you had him. This guy came in week 5 or whatever it was after the bye week and just absolutely changed the defense. I never thought a slot cornerback could be as valuable, as Cooper DeJean has been to this defense. And I think if you take him out, similarly, you lose a mindset on that defense that he brought in. He's young, he's fast, he's hungry. Most importantly, his football IQ is through the roof. That's why he outsmarted the quarterback like Patrick Mahomes. And I'm going to take Cooper DeJean at number 9, which makes me feel better because now that gives me 3 defensive guys in my top 10, and I couldn't go through this top 10. The easy thing to do, remember, is we got more talent on offense.
Yeah.
It's easy to rattle off 10 offensive guys, but this defense is very important. So I have 3 defensive guys so far through 9. Cooper DeJean at number 9.
All right, last one here. And I'm going to give you again the pick. And I'll ask you the question between these 2 players. Who do you believe was more instrumental in the team's success in 2025? Devontae Smith or Quinyon Mitchell?
You went the same place I went. This was literally before you said this, I was thinking for number 10, do I go Smitty or do I go Quinyon? And that's the question. I think Quinyon does more for his respective side of the ball, but I think Devontae Smith is a better football player right now, as it stands right now. So it's kind of a push. I know you hate that. You're going to ride the fence on me, but give me Smitty.
Smitty over you think you can win a ball game without Smitty, or do you think you can win a ball game with Eli?
Ball game without Smitty.
Can you win a ball game with Eli Ricks and Keely Ringo playing corner without Q back there?
Hey, listen, man, if Ivanka Trump sees something in Eli Ricks, maybe there's something we're missing, Big Sills. No, I don't know. Maybe this is just a bias for me. I love Quinyon. I really don't want to slight Quinyon. I would do anything to get Quinyon in this top 10, but I can't. There's nobody I can sub out right now. I got to go Smitty, man. Some of the catches I watched that guy make, some of the toe taps, the way he runs routes, the way he makes everybody escape him, the big plays downfield, the big catch in the Super Bowl. You remember the catch in the back of the end zone where he toe taps, drags the toes at the end of the end zone. I can't take him off the field. I can't. I'm sorry. That's part of what makes the offense potent. If you don't have Smitty and AJ, then AJ's not as good, Jalen's not as good, and Saquon's not as good. They're all the reason for being so potent.
So you think Cooper's more of an impact on defense than what Q is?
I think Cooper is in more of a glue role in terms of if you lose that position, I don't know if the defense holds up overall as well. But I do think Quinyon right now he's your outside zone corner, right? Now, he's not easy to replace because he's really good at it. But if you take Cooper off the field, I think the defense could essentially fall apart in terms of, the whole middle of the field. So that's why I went Cooper over Quinyon, but I do not say that at all as a knock on what Quinyon Mitchell has been. I think he's been excellent. I just think, that Cooper, I thought he brought a little bit more overall to the defense, I think. And maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure. I'd like to ask Vic Fangio this question.
We'll answer all your supers here in a second. Please hit the like button. So I put Barkley at 1, AJ 2. I put Hurts 3, Lane 4, Mulata 5, Carter 6, Cam Jurgens 7, Cooper DeJean 8, Vaughn 9, and I went with Zander with Smitty at 10 here. Here's Zander's. Hurts 1, Carter 2, Barkley 3, AJ 4, Vaughn 5, Lane 6, Mulata 7, Landon Dickerson 8, Cooper 9, and Smitty at 10.
Nice.
Those are the 10. Those are the 10 guys. You know what's funny? They're just positioned differently.
Yeah, right. It's all the same dudes. All the same dudes in different order. Yep.
Right. It's just like, a dessert kind of thing here.
Yeah.
What you're looking at here. All right, let's get to these supers. Guys, do me a favor. We got Gary Cobb.
I already gave one honorable mention with Quinyon, and I do want to give an honorable mention about the center because I think you made such a good point about that and how important that position is. And maybe it even flies under the radar a little bit. And I had 3 of the 4 returning offensive linemen in my top 10. I did not have the center, Cam Jurgens. And I think an honorable mention there for Cam Jurgens is warranted.
Absolutely. Let's get to these supers before we get to Gary Cobb, who, by the way, was at NovaCare, and he was there for the press conference.
Yeah, just 2 supers real quick, so we'll rattle them off before we get to G Cobb.
Fox 29, guys. Do me a favor. Please hit the like button.
Brandon Howard checking in. Member for 5 months. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, Brandon. He says, leaving 2-time Super Bowl field goal kicker Elliott off the top 10 is wild. We so used to his success, we take it for granted. 2 shaky years this year, and he was still great despite missing some 50-plus yard field goals this year, 100% field goal in the Super Bowl. Brandon, I appreciate your comment. If you think I'm putting Jake Elliott in the top 10 Eagles that we need to return this year, you are outside of your mind, my friend.
Hey, Brandon.
Are you kidding me?
Kickers aren't football players, okay? They are not football players. They're
Jake, just make the kick, bro. So just make the kick, man. Just make the kick, all right?
Get out of town. Go drink your umbrella drink. Sit underneath your umbrella. You think those guys do drills? Those guys sit under a tiki bar and they come out when they need to kick. Not football
Come
player.
on, Brandon. You're smarter than this, man. We like Jake Elliott, but he is not a top 10 Eagle that we need for 2026 or 2025. Are you kidding me? All right, last super here before G Cobb. Kyle Kokorski says, would you put Blankenship on that list? Actually, Sills, I think he'd be the next defender on the list after Q.
Yeah, I think so. I'll tell you, Reed has probably carved himself out of a leadership role back there because every time you talk about
he's
secondary, Vic's always talking about him, right?
He's the communicator on that secondary, Sills. He's the guy. So I think that's an honorable mention there, Kokorski, but not my top 10.
Look at Z keeping the main thing the main thing. I like it.
I tell you what, you turn on that Joe Burrow presser, you'll be feeling better about Jalen Hurts.
Okay,
whining about everything.
I'm going to need to. Big Z, great stuff. We'll catch you at Birds 265 in the morning. So before I get Gary Cobb in here, and I tell you, man, His Highness was speaking today, King Hurts, they was like, so the question was asked, hey, man, what about you not going to the White House? I didn't think the question was relevant to, my stay here with the Eagles as the leader of the football team, and the main thing's the main thing. Nicole Lynn, please put that on my agenda. Make sure that I talk to Bob Lang, that those kind of questions are not asked of me again. Thank you. Appreciate it. The process has never changed. And, I'm just like, I was like, damn, this guy's all like, I don't know, man. Went to like a finishing school or something. Like he went to a boarding school. I thought I was watching royalty today. See, I'm a simple dude. I don't know. Maybe Gary saw it differently. And then Nick Sirianni. Boy, I'll tell you, I'm going to ask Gary Cobb this because I believe I'm going to be right. You think that guy's going to be the highest paid coach in NFL history? Or do you think he's going to come in at around 16.5? How important do you think he is? Isn't it funny? You release. So before I get, Gary, I want you to hear this before I bring you up here. So here's the Eagles press release, which is psycho if you read it. This thing's crazy if you read it. So here, listen to it. So the Eagles do this. And their press release yesterday was all about how we love consistency here with our football team. And our press release, here it is. I'm going to read it before I get Gary up. As an organization, we have always, under Jeffrey Lurie, I added, strive for great championship culture and sustained success that we created. Nothing is more important than fostering such an environment than having a tremendous leader and leadership. Okay. Nick has embodied everything we're looking for in a head coach since we hired him 4 years ago. His authentic style of leadership and Big Dom, football intelligence, all right, passion for the game, okay, and growth mindset help bring out the best in our team. I'm excited what the future holds for the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, well, what's the future? Is it 3 years? Is it 4 years? How much money did you pay him? Is he making more than Sean Payton? Is he making more than Mike Tomlin?